Today we're going to show you a tour of a disassembled airbrush and talk about some common maintenance tasks. Hopefully this can also help identify and fix any problems you might be coming across. In this video I am using the Gaahleri Mobius airbrush. Although there can be some variation in different airbrushes, they generally work on the same principles. You can apply the same knowledge and methods for the airbrush that you use. Starting at the front of the airbrush, we will begin with the air cap. All airbrushes come with an air cap, but there are several different variations that you will see. The air cap is there to protect the needle and regulate the spray pattern. It works by affecting the way in which the paint spray atomizes when it interacts with the air as it leaves the airbrush. The simple way to look at it is that the less cap there is, the more precise the spray. So the most precise way to spray is no cap at all. Be careful if spraying this way, as the needle is very delicate and it can be easy to accidentally damage. There are some air caps that are intended to offer the same spray precision as the bare needle, but are designed to offer some protection from accidental damage, such as this one by Gaahleri. More basic and budget airbrushes usually come with some type of closed cap. This is a simple tube shape, sometimes straight and sometimes tapered. The actual shape of this doesn't make a significant difference to the spray. It is for basic coverage and it is a fine starting point for beginners or users looking for a quick and efficient priming or base coating airbrush. Making up a balanced middle ground, there are solutions such as the crown cap and hole cap. These tighten up the spray dispersal, giving your spray a more precise shape, but keeping a slightly feathered edge. This is typically what I will use for shading and glazing larger shapes. Finally, I will mention fan and fine line shapes. The fan cap modifies the spray into a large, flat cone, useful for even coverage over very large areas, and is not commonly used for scale models. The fine line cap is similar enough but much more precise, encouraging the spray into a flatter shape for making fine lines. You can normally change the orientation of the line by rotating the cap. This is just a basic overview of some commonly available air caps and their general properties, hopefully giving an idea of which air cap might be right for you. Next along is the nozzle and needle. These will be unique to your airbrush and you must use the right size needle and nozzle combination. They are very precisely manufactured and are also quite delicate. It is very common for beginners to bend or damage these parts during use or cleaning. Don't worry, we've all done it. The needle is also very sharp, so you probably will also stab yourself in the thumb at some point too. The Gaahleri nozzles on these Mobius brushes incorporate innovative spiral channels to improve the atomization. The nozzle, air cap and needle are parts that can accumulate dried paint. So when cleaning, I like to soak them in a mix of water and isopropyl alcohol at a 2:1 ratio. The needle can just be carefully wiped with a cloth or tissue. And for the nozzle, you can use a small needle to remove any dried paint from the inside, around the small opening, and also use these interdental brushes to brush the inside. These interdental brushes are available very cheaply and are much better for the task than usual pipe cleaners or bottle brushes sold as part of airbrush cleaning kits. Honestly, finding these has been a revelation for me. They work absolute wonders. There are a couple of important seals to talk about here. One on the nozzle housing and one on the nozzle itself. As you use and clean your airbrush, these seals can warp and degrade and may also be affected by dry paint or dirt buildup. Do not neglect these, they absolutely will affect the performance of the airbrush. Check them, clean them and replace them regularly. Some very common problems are often down to poor condition seals. The white Teflon seal on the rear of the nozzle causes paint splatter and pulsing and irregular spraying if it is misshapen, and on this airbrush, dirt and dry paint can collect around and under it. It is really worth checking and cleaning this regularly, and if you have the problem of pulsing spray, even when spraying pure water, it could very well be due to this. The replacement parts for these are readily available from Gaahleri and are very cheap, so don't make life hard for yourself, just freshen them up every now and then. Further back, we have the main body of the airbrush. Once it is stripped down like this, it can be soaked in the IPA mix if needed, but I don't do this too often. If you rinse out the airbrush well after spraying and give regular cleaning with the small brushes recommended, it should only need occasional soaking. There are only a couple of places that should need regular cleaning if your airbrush is functioning correctly. This is in the main channel from the front where the needle extends and in from the direction of the paint cup. I use a small mixture of cotton bud and small brushes with an IPA solution to get out any paint remaining in there. At the end of a painting session, I will normally wipe inside the cup and remove the needle and nozzle to run a small brush into the front opening. It takes just about 5 minutes. Airbrushes have a reputation for the time-consuming cleaning and maintenance, but you just need to use them correctly and spend a few minutes at the end of the day to keep on top of it. It's really not that much for the time that they save you. A very important point to mention here is to avoid cleaning into the airbrush beyond the depth of the cup with long wires or pipe cleaners. Here you can see the needle packing screw. On these Gaahleri airbrushes there is a cutaway that allows access to this part. Poking a cleaning tool into this part is risky, as even small scratches can degrade the seal and allow paint to seep into the rear of the airbrush. This will cause a whole bunch of other problems and maintenance issues. On most other airbrushes this part is hidden, but they should all have one in there. The needle packing consists of a seal and a screw that holds it in place. The seal grips the needle and it is what stops paint flowing in the wrong direction into the airbrush. On my airbrush I am changing this with a specialist tool. It needs incremental tightening until it grips the needle with resistance but still allows it to move with the lever. If you're seeing paint leaking into the rear of your airbrush, it could well be that this seal needs adjusting or replacing. The lever or trigger is what regulates the flow of air and paint. On the dual action airbrush, pressing the lever releases the air and pulling back releases the paint. Learning to control the force on both of these functions is what allows you to have control over what you are spraying. This is a precision device and not just a glorified spray can. The lever connects to the air valve. The air valve usually contains a couple of seals, and if you are getting problems with inconsistent airflow, checking and replacing these seals may help. This is also the area that you use that lube that you probably got with your airbrush. After cleaning and reassembling your airbrush, you can apply a small blob of lubricant in this area to ensure a smooth trigger action. It also helps to create a better air seal to ensure the air flows to the correct part of the airbrush. I put a tiny bit where the lever meets the air valve. At the base of the air valve is where you connect your hose. I use quick release adapters so that the airbrushes can be easily swapped around. These particular adapters incorporate micro air control valves, or MAC valves, and these work by decreasing the airflow to the airbrush with a similar effect to reducing the pressure on the compressor. This allows for further control of the spray to achieve different effects. Some airbrushes like the Gaahleri Mobius that we are showing here have an integrated MAC valve, usually on the underside at the front. This works in exactly the same way. At the rear part of the airbrush, we have several parts that should not really require cleaning or maintenance. This needle chucking guided spring is what resets the needle and lever to the starting position. There is usually an adjustment knob here to change the tension of the lever. This is personal preference and you should experiment with this to find your comfortable lever tension. Then, right at the rear is usually a fluid adjustment knob. You can set this to stop the needle pulling too far back and releasing more paint than intended. I used this a lot when I was learning, but now I very rarely change it. As you get your muscle memory dialed in, it becomes less useful. If you do change it, it is useful to remember to fully open it again when flushing the airbrush with cleaner. The final part is the compressor. I have only used a few compressors in my life. You don't tend to replace them very often. My airbrush standard took a huge leap when I invested in a better compressor. I use the Sparmax TC620X and it is really great. Very consistent and reliable airflow, no unwanted moisture. A compressor should have a moisture filter and a pressure tank at the very least. For fine detail, these things are essential. The pressure tank gives a consistent airflow without the pressure dropping as you spray. The moisture filter prevents moisture going through the hose and coming out the airbrush, ruining your spray. The moisture filter needs clearing every so often, and to do this, put a container underneath and push the valve until it is empty. It normally makes quite a mess. The compressor will have a pressure adjustment knob and a pressure gauge. I usually spray between 30 and 35 psi. Some amount of this is preference, and it depends on how you want your spray to perform. Lower pressure means that you can spray closer to the model to get finer lines, but I don't really ever find the need to do this. Also, if you have an MAC valve mentioned earlier, then you can use this to achieve the same effect. If your compressor does have a pressure tank, you should empty it if you are not planning to use it for a couple of days. This will help to keep your compressor in good working order. Turning the power off and disconnecting the hose will do it. And this concludes our airbrush tour. Hopefully this information can help you with your airbrush maintenance and maybe even diagnose some of the problems you could run into. Thank you to Gaahleri for gifting us a Mobius 0.2 to help create this guide. And with that, I want to extend a thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you to those on screen as well as our students Seth the Overwitch, Ryan Allen the 3D Acolyte, Malik Thomas, Eliza May, Brad S and Arish Misavi. Thank you so much and we'll catch you in the next one.